Welcome. I'm Peggy, and we have an important issue to discuss today, and we have some information from across the country, including a big email from New York, and we have some wonderful people right here in our area of the United States who have deep concerns and are doing something to protect people and children. Really, it's important with guns. We're talking about gun safety and really gun common sense. And there's a group that has become, it's expanded and it's all across the country, and we have it right here, and it's called Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. And this does not say that you do not have the right to own a gun or many guns. Our Constitution gives us the right to defend ourselves, and God bless our founding fathers for having the wisdom to see that and put it in writing for all of us. 237 years ago they did that. But we need to be aware of the dangers of having a gun in your home, having children in your home, or perhaps children who may come visit. And I want to welcome Debbie Edwards, who is the communications lead for the state of South Carolina. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Peggy.
And this is, we've had a lot of terrible, terrible things happen all across the country and in the upstate of South Carolina alone, of children being shot accidentally.
Accidentally, and we don't really like to use the word accidentally, because our feeling is that if a child accesses a gun and hurts themselves or somebody else, the gun owner is responsible because they've not safely stored the gun.
Yeah.
And that was what this study was all about. This is a study, it's kind of the first of its kind to go into this kind of an in-depth analysis, but what they did was look at a year period of time between the time Sandy Hook happened, which was December of 2012, and December of 2013, to see how many unintentional, let's call them unintentional, so we don't have to use the judgment accidental.
Yeah, well, no child, many times children think it's a toy.
They do, yeah, they do, and they kill another child, and you know, absolutely no intent at all, which is fine. For them, I mean, you don't want to think that they intended to do it, because I'm sure they didn't. Now, you get into teenagers, sometimes yes, because their anger takes over, whatever, but that's kind of a different thing. But this particular study looked at this 1 year period, and they only looked at ages 14 and below to see how many there actually were, how many of these unintentional shootings there actually were. And what they found was, across the country, it ended up being right at 100 across the country within a year. And this is higher. This is probably 61% higher than what the CDC was counting. And the reason for that is that in a lot of states or a lot of jurisdictions, the coroner might count something as a homicide because somebody else pulled the trigger without really establishing intent or anything. So some are counted as homicides, some are counted as suicides when they probably really were unintentional. So this study looked at all of the media coverage for the different states, went back in time, and this is where they found the 100, and of those, 4 of those happened in South Carolina.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
And you're not trying to do away with gun ownership.
No, in fact, I'm a gun owner, and I have my concealed weapons permit, although I personally choose not to carry in public, but I do have my concealed weapons permit, have a gun in my home for self-protection, and also a very large dog, so they have to get past him first.
Like the dog.
But we have no children in our home. But hopefully, we haven't given up on grandchildren. Right now, they only have 4 legs and fur, but I'm hoping we have regular ones at some point. And that'll change the way that we protect our gun. And right now, we do keep it in a gun safe. I actually brought a sample for you. I brought it for you to see.
Show us what this is.
This is a very inexpensive one, and it's very simple. It just has a little 3-digit code on it. And you just turn the knob and open it, and the gun sits here. This little cable, as you can see, one end of it is locked inside the gun case. So usually the other end is wrapped around part of the bed frame. So
Okay.
it can't go anywhere by itself. I mean, it's not going to come out.
And the case is locked.
And the case is locked. Now, when we have a child in our home, which does not happen very often, but when we do have a child in our home, this whole apparatus, the box, not necessarily the cable, is up on the top shelf of the closet, because if a child is in our home, they're a visitor, and they're not going to be wandering around in our bedroom or in our closet. But with my husband and I are the only ones there, we still lock it up. And usually at night, I'll have it easily accessible. But, and when my husband's out of town, sometimes I even have it open on the floor next to my bed.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? If you have a gun, which we legally have a right to protect ourselves and our families and our property. All right, you have a gun. You know how to use it. You have bullets.
Yes.
All right. If you put the gun one place and the bullets are stored someplace else, and then you have to go get the bullets and unlock the gun and get it ready to shoot.
In the middle of the night.
By the time an intruder or someone who wants to do you harm has broken into your home, they've already done what they wanted to do, and you might as well not have a gun. Now, what do you do about that?
Okay, I think it's different if you don't have children and you want to keep a gun by your bedside, you know, when you're sleeping at night. I don't have a problem with that. This really, the things that we're trying to get across are if you have a child that lives in your home or frequently comes to your home like a grandparent.
If you're a grandparent,
yes,
and you have
then
a gun,
you need to be maybe a little bit, what would be the right word, I guess, inconvenienced for the sake of protecting the child. And the experts do recommend that you store the gun locked separately from the ammunition, which is stored and locked in another place. I understand that that's not very practical.
No,
okay.
No, not if your reason for having the gun is to protect yourself, your family, and your property. There's nothing practical about what you recommend.
Although they have, I mentioned when we were talking earlier, I mentioned a TV show that was done. It's a 2020 episode called Young Guns, which I think is still available if you go online on the ABC network. There was a gun safety expert on there, and he had a biometric gun safe, which this one is not. This one's just manual, just a manual combination. He got up from where he was sitting and reading. He opened his gun safe. He got the ammunition, which was a magazine that you just shove in, you know, to the butt of the gun, basically. 7 seconds. 7 seconds. That's all it took. Now, people are not going to be able to do that, obviously, the first time, but if you have a child in your home and you want to protect the child, it's worth practicing a little or whatever. If you have to choose, my choice would be leave it loaded but have it locked and have it somewhere where you can get to it at night when you're there, but make sure it's locked up during the day, because a lot of these incidents occur when the child is home alone.
All right, now,
or with another older child.
You may say, well, I have children in my home, my children, but they're old enough to comprehend, and so we have told them, don't go near this, don't touch this, but then, and that's fine, but then they have friends who come over to play, and all of a sudden the gun comes out. This happens all the time. Or if you take your child to someone's home to visit and play with their children, which happens, we've all had children, we've done that, what should you find out before you leave your child at that person's
someone else's
home?
house? Basically, there's something called ASK, which just says that don't ever let your child go to a home or someone else's car unless you ask if they have a gun. Is it secured? You're not interested so much in whether or not they have a gun. You just want to make sure that it's secured. It's not just lying around accessible. It's not somewhere the kids can climb up and get it. I mean, I've seen 4-year-olds build towers to get to a cookie jar. You know, they can find anything. And so basically, they suggest making it part of a general conversation about safety. Because, for example, if your child has food allergies, you're going to tell them that before they go to that person's house, right? You're going to say they're allergic to peanut butter. Don't let them have anything with peanuts in it or whatever. And so just make it part of the same conversation. If the people have a pool, is it locked? Does it have an alarm where somebody falls in? If there's an allergy, you've covered that. If there's a pet, cover that. Make sure there's not going to be an accidental dog bite or something. Talk about guns the same way. It's just another part of safety. That's all. And just ask them. And don't let your child go. If they say, oh, we have guns, but we don't lock them up because the kids know better, don't let your child go there. Don't let your teenager go there to babysit. Because they've actually had babysitters shot.
Yeah.
And they've also had babysitters that brought the gun in with them. So you have to, it goes both ways.
And it is, right now, I believe I'm right on this, more and more people are becoming concerned with situations all around, and more people are buying guns or thinking about buying guns. I've heard people talk about this. And I have one friend who is a crack shot, and when her husband travels, that gun is right there. But she has no children.
Right.
So she is not breaking the law. And
well, actually, there's no law in South Carolina.
Well, there's no law against...
There's no law saying you have to keep your guns safe from child access.
Well...
We are one of, let's see, 28 states.
Do other states have such laws? I never heard of such a thing. 28 states
and the District of Columbia have safe access or access prevention laws.
So what are they going to do? Come into your home and knock on your door and say, now where do you keep your gun?
Not necessarily.
That's kind of a ridiculous law.
What happens is, it's kind of based on what happens. Because in the one state that's really an example of a strong law would be Florida. And they passed a law in 1997, I believe it was, that brought down their incident of child gun shootings by 51%. And what they did was say, if your child gets a hold of your gun and waves it around or points it at somebody in a threatening way, it's a misdemeanor. No harm done at this point, okay? If the child accesses your gun and kills someone or hurts someone, then it can be a felony. And it brought it down, cut it in more than half, because a lot of it is just carelessness or laziness.
Yeah. People don't think about
the
dangers that can happen.
What really scares me are the people that say, oh, well, I've trained my child. They've been with guns, they've shot guns, they know all this, they're not going to do it. Well, and one guy on Facebook said, I'd bet my life on it. And I said, well, the problem is you're not betting your life. You're betting your child's life. Are you that comfortable or that confident? Because frankly, children, they're the part of the brain that controls judgment and keeps you from acting impulsively. Doesn't even mature completely until you're 23 years old. So you cannot rely on a child, no matter how many times you've told them, no matter how many times they may themselves have shot guns, you cannot rely on them to not do something stupid.
Okay, well, I know a lot of people who are over 22 or whatever it is, that part of their brain
still hasn't developed. I know a few like that as well.